interesting just to spot. I think Usman Khawaja just step away there before the champagne was sprayed around. But they will rightly enjoy this moment, and so they should. I just wonder, Sir Alastair, whether getting to the point with this series in Australia, whether it almost means a little less than it used to because it's too easy.
Well, it has been in the past, in the past few series. In one sense, this has probably been the least competitive series between the sides. I've been involved in 2 5-0s as well, so people might be accusing me of slight bias there, but it just felt that there was a very big gap between the sides, and it's tough viewing. And like all these things, at the end of Ashes series, it comes like, what can we do differently? And we have to start looking at everything again and start rebuilding this Test team to start that we can compete in Australia. And we have competed in Australia. We might not have got the results over some series, and we've lost games, but it's time. It's time to have a look at everything and leave no stone unturned, because we've got to be better. We have to be better. Yes, COVID has played a big part in the last 18 months or so, and I'm going to say it now once and get it kind of out of the way, that that plays a big part on a touring team, and amount of cricket England have played. But we can't expect certain things when you get on tour, to an Australia tour, to have no warm-up games, no first-class games, no practice games in the middle for people to go and find form. So, it's a real tough pill to swallow as an ex-player watching it. But yeah, if you're on part of the next stage, it's exciting trying to plan your way through it. But that's that last hour and a half shows exactly where we are.
Well, it does. Yeah, it does. It's hard not to get too kind of emotionally sucked into that and the depressing nature of that. And we've got to try and look for constructive ways to improve the situation if they're there.
Yeah, I mean, what we've had is a perfect storm of a team that was already brittle in terms of its batting resilience. Was already quite confused, even at home, in terms of, is this Test match that we're playing, is it in order to prepare for a series that's coming in 4 or 5 months' time? Are we picking the best team that we have available to win the Test match we're playing in now, in order that we build a bit of confidence and momentum before we get to Australia, where we know it's going to be very tough? Players for quite some time now coming into the team have generally if they've started okay, they've never got better. So there is an environmental question there in terms of what happens to these guys. Why after 15 or so Test matches aren't players' sort of results on an upward curve? Why are they on a downward one? Do we have, a lot of the talk, in fact, going into the series, that England had more resources in terms of backup in the bowling department than Australia did? Well, that was patently untrue, wasn't it? And so there this perfect storm of COVID, bubbles, no preparation. Even the preparation that they had slated before they got to Australia was wiped out by the weather when they got there. So they're all legitimate excuses. However, these batting collapses, this issue with taking 20 wickets in Australia has been a running story for a very, very long time now. And so that it isn't all just something that you can put down to what has happened in terms of COVID and bubbles and the rest of it. There's managerial problems there. There's planning problems. This was supposed to have been the best prepared side ever to go on an Australian tour. Should have been 5, shouldn't it? But for a half an hour rain on the 5th day at Sydney, it would have been 5. And this afternoon, it's really difficult, and I'm glad you said it, actually, because you kind of sit there and watch that last hour and a half, and you could be very emotional about the reaction to that. And I'm sure there are people sat at home on their sofas who are...
For sure.
Well, they've probably turned off, or they've been throwing stuff around the front room, and the cat's been lobbed outside. So it's difficult to kind of make an assessment that doesn't involve a bit of emotion. But, that was a really tough watch. And the Ashes is a comparison between the way they do things over there and the way we do things over here. And at the moment, the way we do things over here has been trashed, hasn't it?
Well, it has actually been, trashed is a good word. It's perhaps a bit easier, and without, again, being emotional, it's easy to think about what is salvageable rather than what to throw out.
Yeah, you've got to strip everything back now to basics and start thinking, right, what can we do to get better? Where is the... They spoke about being, this is the best prepared. You mentioned it.
Yeah.
I think, go back to the high performance director, Ashley Giles, Chris Silver, this will be this. And if that's what's happened, it's clearly not right. So that needs to be seriously looked at. Everything now needs, I think, to be pointing to what decisions have been made there to make it high performance. Do you know what I mean? Everything's going to be stripped back and say, how do we get this England side better, quickly, and for the long term? Like, we know nothing else can matter, really. All this other stuff, we've had all this money piled into the 100, we've had all this other stuff going on. Well, actually, let's strip all that away now and just everything as a single into one thing, make England's test side better. And cricket side better. I'll go back to England. Got bowled out for 51. We got bowled out for 51 as a playing side, and we were told that was totally unacceptable as a playing group. That is not good enough for the resources we had, for the players in the room, and the ability in the room. Do something about it. Otherwise, we'll find someone else. And actually, that's kind of where we got to. And we said we're going to be number one side of the world. We want to become number one side of the world in 4 years. Put everything to it. Don't leave anything else unturned in your life, in your career, and the organisation really got behind us. To the fact that even to the players' wives on tour, this is what we almost expect of you to do, and they were given everything. It needs to be really looked after them on it, and so happy away from the field. All that kind of stuff needs to be singled in, and I think there's been so many other distractions, rest and rotations, all this other stuff thrown at it. Scrap all that now. Best side, best players. Do you know what I mean? All the time. Like
one thing that is for sure is that other countries, New Zealand is always a terrific example because they have tiny resources in comparison to those available to India, Australia, and England. So the big three, and yet they managed to be the best Test team in the world. They won the World Test Championship. They've been in 2 white ball world finals, the last 2 to go out.
Yeah.
And so, you could say, well, the way that we've messed around with the county championship in the last 2 or 3 years has meant that all of the focus has been on white ball cricket and there hasn't been enough focus on red ball cricket. And what you have to do is reverse that. What I'm saying with the resources that we have in terms of 18 first-class counties, the amount of professional cricketers that we have, if that system is the right system, and there's a lot of arguments to say that perhaps it could be slimmed down, if that system is the right system, then we shouldn't have to go, well, it can only be white ball cricket for this 4 years and it can only be test match cricket for this 4 years. We should be able to do everything. We should be able to produce cricketers whose techniques can withstand... I'll always use the example of the 2 lads who opened the batting for India in test match cricket, Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul. Who played the moving ball best in England this year? Was it their openers or our openers? Yeah. It was theirs. Yeah. And those 2 blokes also happened to score 50 over double hundreds or 60 ball hundreds in 40 ball hundreds in T20 cricket. So it is possible to be able to play in all of those different ways.
Shouldn't be a binary debate.
Exactly. It's not. It isn't just you can either be good at one and you can be good at the other.
You can be good.
And we do have the resources to do all of that. And that is where the disappointment comes from. Is that this is a very, very a very, very large organisation, English cricket, and it has an enormous amount of financial and personnel-based resource, and yet that is the best that we can do at the moment. And that cannot be right.